So you said when we were in the break, like that's your say it again. I'll let you
Sadhana.
say it.
Yeah. It's so you get everybody. There's like 100 something sadhanas that people use for meditation and yoga. And I've discovered that my sadhana is music, and it immediately gets me into like that flow state where everything else seems to disappear, and I'm super present in the moment, and everything becomes clear. And oftentimes I get this big sense of joy, and it'll make me emotional. And then once that happens, I'm like I just become super grateful for everything that's happened in my life, good and bad, which, is, I think, the point of a lot of all this.
It is. Yeah, it totally is. I mean, that's it right there. Be grateful for the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Whether music shows you that, people show you that, you show yourself that. Every time. So one of the things that I've talked about with some of my clients, and I've talked about on my other Rethinking Dads podcast, is the feeling of, and we were actually talking about this earlier, just about crying, like the feeling, and music does this for me, where like and sometimes it's the strangest songs. I have sometimes the music taste of a 20-year-old female. I'll listen to a lot of Halsey and Billie Eilish.
Dude, yeah.
But like occasionally, man, I'll get into one of these songs. I'll be driving somewhere and I'll just feel this well of emotion coming up. And I have this moment, this sort of deciding moment of, okay, I can either let it go and just be a bumbling, crying fool driving through downtown St. Pete, or I can hold it in.
Yeah.
And it's sort of that like suck in and repress that emotion because I don't want to cry because I'm about to, walk into a place.
Yeah, dude.
Like that.
Yeah.
But it's such a not weird, it's just such a real feeling. And something that we talked about earlier, and it's worth saying out loud again, is to feel that feeling. Like, don't hold it back. I mean, come on, man. Sometimes it just feels good. It feels good to cry, but sometimes it just feels good to feel.
Yeah, dude. Part of being human, man. It's part of being human. I love that. As I get older, I find that inner voice in my head reminds me more and more when I get sad or I get happy. It just reminds me, yeah, man, this is it. This is it. This is why we're here, is to feel it, man.
You have probably come in contact with people in your life. I know you have, because I know I have, and we know a lot of the same people who you can tell they have a wall up.
Oh, yeah.
Like you talk to them and you have a good conversation with them, but like you kind of know your inner voice is like, yeah, they're not being 100% real.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they're being rude. It doesn't mean they're being a dick. It doesn't mean any of that. It just simply means that there's a wall up. And you recognize that it's like, sometimes I want to be like, all right, come on, dude. Tell me how you really feel. How are you really?
Yep.
Oh, I'm fine. No, really. No, I'm good. Really. Make it really awkward,
Yeah, dude. Look me in the eyes
and tell me you're good. But the whole goal and the whole intention of that is just to feel.
Yeah.
It just feels so, and I've come to a place where I feel I'm a guy. We are, I love the fact that Let's Get Real is just a show of two dudes talking about their feelings.
Yep. And crying.
And crying. This is the best radio ever.
Baby.
This is it. We're just guys talking about feelings and crying. Mike Calza loves us for this. But like when you feel something and you just let it go and you're just like, yeah, man, I'm just like, this Halsey song just hits, this Billie Eilish song just hits, and I'm just going to cry. I'm just going to sit in my truck and cry. Yeah. And then it's just, and then I don't know, it's like a weird, I'm sure it is a drug. I'm sure there's some things being released in the body. But man, how it feels when you're done and you're like, F yeah, man. Yeah. Like now, and then that sense of like energy that comes from it. Cause I'm thinking about the calls that we've had today with Josh at the very, very beginning. And it's like, damn, Josh is on this side of just a really challenging time in his life with a wife who's going through, learning 2 weeks ago that she's got, what was it? It was bone cancer and breast cancer.
Yeah.
5 kids from 15 to 21. And he's on this side of it. He's not on the other side of it. He's on this side of it. And the strength that it's going to require for him. And how Brian's advice was perfect. Like, just bring the family together and just cry for a little while.
Yeah, man.
Because after that, like that post feeling of strength and joy that comes from it.
Well, that and the spirit, in my opinion, the spirituality side is, and I feel like a lot of people, men, women, when they get that feeling of crying or whatever that is, where you feel it in your chest and it just doesn't feel great. the more you hold that in over time, when you get that feeling and you do cry, it is going to be a purge of a lot of that all at once. And you need that because that will open up and clear out all that energy and all that negative energy to make way for the more positive energy. And then when you have more of that, like with Josh, when he lets all that out, now you're making way for the more positive energy to kind of come in and emanate out of you in that way. So you have to clear that stuff out. Everything becomes more clear. And that's that feeling that you were talking about, Michael, of that feeling so good afterwards. It's because you literally got rid of all the bad.
Hey, you know, the other thing that like kind of on this whole thing of what we're talking about is when you do keep it in, like it physically, like there's a whole energetic conversation around like that leads to disease.
Yes, 100%.
Like that leads to like cancer and things like that.
Yeah, they've proved it through some quantum studies that they've done where we've talked about it before. You know, they talk about chakra centers and all that, which I never used to really believe in any of that stuff. But about a year ago, I started doing some research, and they found that there's literally a cluster of nerves in the human body that correlates with each chakra center. So you have one in your root, and it goes all the way up to your throat, and obviously your brain is the crown. But that's a very real thing that coincides with energy, and we create an electromagnetic field around us, and those nerve centers pick up and disperse different kinds of energy. And, you know, there is no such thing as good or bad, but there is negative and positive energy. And the more you hold on to negative, the more that emanates in every cell of your body, creating things like you said, like disease, you know, sadness, depression, anxiety. And you have a choice to either let it go or hold on to it.
The fascinating thing is I'm hearing us have this conversation, and I'm just sort of listening to us talk, which is sort of weird, is like how feeling that feeling and just like having the emotional response of whether it be crying or laughing or something, and just how like that release, like that is such a microcosm of like life.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to let things go. You have to clear things out. I do genuinely believe that whether it's you and me sitting at Grassroots or walking around a lake or even doing the show live, that we come to a place of conclusion that helps us.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, if nobody listens and no one ever calls the show again, and John Brennan is like, enough of you guys, that at least we've done ourselves a favor.
Yeah.
At least we've done ourselves a service. But one of the realizations there is like, maybe that's just like a whole thing with life. It's just like you have to let energy flow.
Yes.
And I know that to be true. Like one of the ways where we've talked about scarcity a lot over the last few weeks is like I'll have money in a savings account and I'll be so like, oh, I cannot spend any of this money, and it's got to be, you know, every penny is watched with a fine-tooth comb and all that. And the funny thing is that when I let go of that, just such like anal, like I've got to hold on to it. Once I realize that money is just like any energy, it just flows. Like that, as you let it go, more comes in.
Yes.
Like that was a huge lesson for me. I was like, oh.
Yeah, dude.
So you mean if I keep spending, more will come in?
That's
and
right.
Lo and behold, now it takes some belief and it takes some courage, at least for me in a scarcity mindset throughout my life, to believe that. But evidence has supported that to be true like every time.
Yeah, dude, when you finally decide you want to dance with the universe and have a little faith and let the universe work its magic, it's shocking the abundance that will come to you. And you know, a lot of people, they hone in on money as this source of abundance, but the reality is abundance can come in many different ways besides money. It could come in the form of a friend being there for you to take you out to dinner and then you meet somebody, or, you know, you could, you know, win lotto, or you have a new job comes in. It's not just with money. So don't close yourself off to all these other different experiences, which, by the way, we have another phone call. Leslie is on the line.
Leslie, welcome to Let's Get Real. What's going on?
I was just kind of catching your show on the way home, and I'll keep it brief. It's a long story, but like 30 years ago, I was supposed to get married. I called the wedding off the day before. He was very physically, verbally, mentally abusive. It was a horrible situation. He's reached out to me now through Facebook after all this time, and I thought that I had worked through everything, you know, forgiving him, being okay, and forgiving myself for making some really bad decisions. And now, just with these messages being sent to me, it's brought back like all of those horrible feelings. And now I don't feel like I forgive them anymore. I feel like if I saw him, I'd want to run him over. So, I mean, how do you deal with something like that?
Oh, can I take this one?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure you've got some good experience on it.
Leslie, if I may. So can I ask you if any of these messages have been sent in the last week or so?
No.
No? Okay, well, perfect. But I'm glad you're calling today specifically because there is this new moon happening right now, and it all coincides with having exes come back in your life and deciding and making a choice on what you want to do with that energy that has been brought back into your life. So, with that being said, all I can offer you is my own experience, which is understanding that when these emotions come up, all they are is a way of showing you what different areas in your life that you feel this way about yourself. For me, it was I didn't feel worthy or deserving of a love greater than what I was being offered by my ex. And there was lying, there was a lot of manipulation, there was a lot of making me feel less than or like I could never do better. So I had to learn through that. I was never good at setting boundaries, especially with people that I loved. So I had to learn to set boundaries, and the biggest way of doing that was forgiving myself for ever letting that in my life in the first place. And once I forgave myself for allowing that to be a part of who I became, everything else became so much easier when it came to forgiving that person and forgiving the situations that I found myself in, forgiving myself for drinking myself almost to death at certain points in my life. It all started with accepting and understanding that I allowed this, and it was something that I needed to work on, and I had to forgive myself first. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And I've kind of been down that path, and that part I feel most comfortable with as far as forgiving myself and understanding, the reasons that I made those choices back then. I certainly wouldn't make them now. I'm so angry all over again now that he's had the audacity to try to introduce himself into my life, and I don't know. I'm so angry. I'm
Yeah, it's
really
okay.
mad.
You're allowed to be angry, man. You're allowed to process that. Let yourself be angry. But remember, anger is like drinking a poison and expecting it to affect somebody else.
So what do I do with it?
You have to process it. You got to let it go. You have to let it go. You have to understand that this was all part of your story, and it's part of you learning to accept certain things about life and learning how to let go of certain things about life and understanding that life is a flow and these things are going to come and go. But holding on to that anger is, like I said, it's like drinking a poison and expecting it to affect somebody else.
Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry, Leslie. I'm sorry you're going through this.
I appreciate your perspective and your opinion, and hope your show continues on for a long time. Appreciate listening.
Awesome.
Love
hey,
you.
thank you, Leslie.
Don't run him over.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And I know we got to go to break, so we'll go to break here in just a second. But I've heard that before. It's like drinking a poison and expecting it to affect other people. And I think just even listening to Leslie and the fact that she had processed part of that in her own life, I know that and I know she probably doesn't see it right now, but it's like literally like the next step around the corner is the processing of the anger. And I witnessed that with my wife and her mom.
Yeah, dude.
She
Isn't that
was
wild?
so angry. And now the peace and the forgiveness and the kindness and the love. Like, this guy was not a nice person.
Yeah.
So let him go.
Yeah.
Let him go. But yeah, but you know what? Hey, congratulations, Leslie. You are a human being.
Yeah, dude.
Congratulations. Your heart is still beating. You are alive because you feel those things. So feel it.
Yeah.
Feel it. Process it. Call us back next segment. Call us back next week if you need to process it some more. You are always invited in.